Today we're going to be speaking about strategy and how you can become more strategic. I'm very excited for the space and to be spending this time with you. So as you're coming in, welcome, and I'm going to just invite you to sit back and relax if you are sitting back and not multitasking. And in any case, whatever you're doing, part of this live is about practicing presence and how we can be more present and introduce AI, because the intersection of AI together with presence, that's actually a magic power. Presence in anything, even without AI, but we know that AI is a superpower today and that we all need to actually acknowledge that it exists. It's becoming a big part of our lives more and more every day. And so how can we combine human presence, not just presence, but human presence, to be more strategic? So that's the topic for today. And so I'm going to get started. And as I say, as you hear my voice, just breathe. That's already practicing presence. And so what are we going to be doing today? We're going to be talking about the 4 levels of transformation. It's very, very important to understand how we learn. And when we take learning in and we start adopting it and we start becoming that person that is able to become more strategic, how do we become that leader that creates change? And so we are going to be talking about the 4 levels of transformation. We're going to be going into the Mindful Act leadership model. It's a model I created and wrote about in my book. We're going to be talking about the intersection of presence and AI and how that strengthens strategy. And then there's going to be time at the end also for Q&A. So just enjoy. And again, if you're coming in now, breathe, breathe, and breathe some more. So this is a client of mine. This is not her picture, but she came from an operations background. And many of the people that I know come from subject matter experts. That's how we start off. We're really good at what we do. So she was managing technical teams, not one team, but several. And now she needed to move into more of an advisory leadership role. ACA, she had to be more strategic. So as a highly technical engineer, she said to me, I naturally stay close to the detail. Her mind thinks bottom up. And she said to me, Sam, I create bottlenecks. I limit my team. I limit their development, and I'm not able to focus on strategy. And so she said to me, I want to strengthen my big picture thinking. I want to be able to communicate direction more clearly, to delegate more. And I want to create the space to step back from the daily rush, from the daily activity, from being always on, and to be able to focus on more higher level thinking. And so this is a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing more on how we can introduce strategy and how we can start thinking top down instead of bottom up, which a lot of us do today. And so another example is somebody that was head of sales. Okay, I've got a lot of people in sales here on the call or going to be listening to the recording, and he moved into a global role. And it's very, very pressurizing. So you're really good at what you do, but then anytime you get promoted, any promotion at all, anytime your responsibility scales, that's going to naturally put you into a pressurizing situation. Why does it do that? Because of course you want to succeed. And so you need to, it's actually, we're going to be talking about this today. This is why I'm so excited about today's live. Because you can't stay being the person who you were before. You actually have to create a shift in identity. And so he needed to start presenting to higher level execs. They weren't interested in the detail. And he kept going into the detail because that's what he knew most. And so we worked on that. And in just 2 sessions, he started becoming strategic. So that's what I want from you today, to get some input. So now another thing that happened yesterday, I was speaking to a leader. She told me just last week she moved from having, 50 people to having 80 people. And she's a leader in Europe, and she said she just flew to the West Coast, and wherever she went, she saw these billboards. So these billboards had AI all over them on the West Coast, in San Jose, in San Francisco. Everywhere she went, she saw AI. And she said to me, Sam, you can't believe, if I think that Europe is much slower than what's happening on the West Coast, and I was on the East Coast 2 weeks ago, and you can see the big difference. And so I just looked up today and I saw this post from the San Francisco Chronicle that said that we visited 500 billboards in San Francisco, and they found that half of them were already advertising different AI companies. And so that's why you're here today. You're here because you know AI is here to stay. And so how can we actually bring present moment and bring human first into AI, and also embrace AI in its best way? Because, this is what I want you to leave with today. So let's move on. So another thing she also said is, she said that she's seeing driverless cars in the Bay Area. And things are really moving ahead. So in case you don't know me, my name is Samantha Ahmet. My friends call me Sam. And I'm originally from South Africa. That's my accent. And, in South Africa, I studied, first of all, information systems. So I work predominantly with tech people. I work with people in fintech, in tech, a lot of software people, but not only, manufacturing as well, government as well. And my superpower is mindfulness. And how I got to mindfulness, so in case you don't know what mindfulness is basically present moment awareness. So it's being present in the moment, actually where less is more. It's been able to focus. We're in a day and age where so much is coming at us. Information is not a problem. Knowledge is not a problem. We have so much coming at us. So where do we focus our attention? How do we prioritize? It's a big skill to have today. And so I came from a place where had ADHD, was juggling, was a young mother in tech, because I studied information systems, went very early into tech, and I was struggling. With my work-life balance, and honestly, I was struggling to be a mom. At the end of the day, when I came home, my day was not finished, because there were still emails, there were still webinars. I still live in Israel, and did webinars with the US with my clients. I was a product manager with my clients in the US. And so I found that I couldn't do the context switching of coming home and then really being a mom. And I found myself shouting at these two small kids, and I hated myself. And so I knew that I had to find something to help me. And that's where I found mindfulness. And I started meditating, and I'm the last person to meditate because I love multitasking. I'm a productivity freak. I have all the books. I believe in Tiny Habits, BJ Fogg, if you know him. And I love Atomic Habits, James Clear. So all these people, they are my people. And so productivity was my thing, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop to meditate. And then what I found is the more that I introduced mindfulness, the more it helped me in all my roles, especially to be a mother, because it helped me to do the context switching, to come home and actually be present with, with my two little kids. And so a lot of people don't know this, but presence isn't about only sitting on a cushion. Presence is about paying attention to what's going on in your body. And we're going to be talking about that today, because I have a case study to tell you about, Peter and what happened to him. So it's paying attention to what's going on in your body. That's why yoga is a mindfulness practice. It's about paying attention to your emotions, okay? And it's about paying attention to your thinking. So present moment awareness is about all this, and you can practice it throughout your day. You practice it when you're in meetings. You practice it, you know, every moment is a moment for practicing mindfulness, of being present in the moment. So I actually wrote this book. I wrote a book with a professor from Henley Business School in the UK, Jonathan Passmore, and he basically challenged me to write this book. So I wrote Mindfulness at Work because I'd been doing a lot of mindfulness workshops within organizations, and so we had a great partnership, and that's one of my philosophies. Anybody that coaches with me, so that's what I didn't say, I coach people in over 45 different countries today. And everybody knows that, you know, my philosophy is around shared leadership. So Jonathan and I collaborated together and we created this book. He wrote the whole science side of mindfulness and how mindfulness really changes the brain. It changes the neural pathways in the brain. And so what we want to be aware of is with AI can very quickly come into our life and take over our life. I've seen with myself even how we can go down a rabbit hole. We can have such fun with AI. And I'm sure many of you that are listening in now are using AI a lot. And that's fantastic. We have to, there are ways that we can use it. And we want to have structures around how we use it. And today what I want you to come away with is that it's going to be human first. Okay. So let's see where we're going today now. So I want to tell you another story. I have also a newsletter that goes out weekly, and I'm actually going to turn that newsletter into a video that's going to go out. Hopefully I will stand by what I'm actually, you know, even challenging myself here right now is creating this video and sending it out to people that are on my newsletter. And so Friday's newsletter was about habit, intention, and wisdom. And it is related to today because habit is like the lower level. Habit is like what we do to, what are the habits that can help us be more effective? And so we do want habits in our life. We want to be able to have productivity habits. We want to have like the 2-minute rule that David Allen has in GTD, Getting Things Done, which is if you can do it now in under 2 minutes, then don't put it in your task list. Just get it done now. So these are habits that you start to have, but that's like the lower level. And then the next level is intention. And intention is where you start becoming more present. So it's not on automatic pilot. You're becoming more present. You bring intention into your day. And so a story about exactly this woman leader that I've started coaching that we've only had 3 meetings with. She's the one that I told you about that saw the billboards. She was on the airplane flying to her meetings in San Jose. And I gave her this exercise to do. And she said to me, Sam, you know, I never take people's advice, but actually on the plane, I usually spend time working. But what I did instead is I did the exercise that you gave me to do. And that was thinking about how I wanted to show up in these meetings, how I wanted to show up, how I wanted to be present in that meetings, and what outcome I wanted to get to, what outcome I wanted to receive. And so she brought intention into her meetings by thinking about it before. And that's what we're going to be talking about a lot today, how you can be intentional during your day. That's being present. And that leads to the next level. That leads to wisdom. And when that happens, you're shifting from doing things automatically, which is when you're a subject matter expert, that's what we do. We're really good at things. We're in execution. We want to move to being more intentional, which means changing, shifting up things a little bit, and then moving to that next level of, bringing in more wisdom. And so this was what the newsletter was about. Now, if we can stop for a moment and just pause and just check in with yourself. So I like to do this pause from 1 to 10, where 1 is low and 10 is high. How are you at making space in your calendar to think? So just ask yourself that now and just breathe. How much thinking time do you have? Because you need thinking time. We don't want AI to take over, all that thinking time. We want to be human first. And so let's go into these 4 levels of transformation. So the first level is level 0. And that's the level which a lot of leaders are on. So they're multitasking, they're going to meetings, their attention is not always fully there. So they have passive attention and they're not fully present. And so they're hearing ideas, but they're not always working with them. And that we call level 0. And there's nothing terrible about it, but that's not where integration of your thinking happens. And so what we want to do is we want to actually move to level 1. Level 1 is where we start recognizing, we start understanding, and we start integrating. That's where patterns start happening, where we start getting clear, mental models start forming. And this is really important because this is where awareness begins. So this is actually the start of presence, because level 1 is when I'm being present, but you're not doing anything yet. And so my friends, this is where AI can really help you, but AI is doing all the work. And yes, you're thinking this is a great idea. Oh, I can see this. And you get really excited and you're spending a lot of time asking questions and doing this and doing that. But you're not creating change yet, where you're bringing your ideas into the rooms and you're creating some behavioral change. So we're going to now go into the ACT model of how we can integrate AI and presence to be more strategic. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to go back into I'm going to show you how level 2 actually changes behavior. So, but let's talk about Peter. Peter's a VP product. He's a father. He is a young kid. He loves swimming. And he comes into the coaching. He's been coaching with me for a while. And he says to me, Sam, I have this feeling in my stomach. So he says to me, I have this feeling in my stomach. You know, when you have jitters in your stomach. And that, my friends, is already a sign that something is coming up. Okay, don't ignore that feeling in your stomach. And it's okay. It's good to have that feeling in your stomach. So let's understand the Mindful ACT leadership model, and then we're going to come back to Peter and see how, what happened to Peter. So this model is called ACT, Mindful ACT, and there's a reason it's called Mindful ACT, because you need to do something, you need to act. And there are 3 parts of it. So now I'm going to walk you through it, even if you aren't able to see the screen. So the first part is achieve. That's me and myself. How can I be more effective? How can I be more present? How can I be less stressed? The second part of the model, the C of the ACT, stands for connect. That's the blue part on the screen. That's my one-to-one or my one-to-many relationships, because we're always in meetings, we're in conversations, we're always actually interacting with people. And then the third pillar is the T. Now you can either survive or you can be thriving. And the thriving part is where you have your many-to-many relationships, internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. And so we want to be thinking of all 3 dimensions of the achieve, me and myself, of the connect, my one-to-one or one-to-many relationships, that's me and my team. And the third dimension is the many-to-many, the thrive. And I see I have a question in the comments. Thank you, Marie, for putting the question in. I am going to get to the Q&A at the end. If any of you have got questions, please pop them in the comments. I'd love to receive your questions and take them at the end. So coming back to Peter, Peter's conscious of these 3 levels. And so the first part of his thing is understanding his body and saying, I have this feeling in my stomach. That's the achieve piece. Then the connect piece is him thinking about what's going on with his team. So he said to me, Sam, I'm not worried about myself, but I am worried about my team. And I'm worried what's going to happen in the company. That's the thrive part. The thrive part is the company. It's the internal stakeholders, the external stakeholders. And so he's in a tech company, and he said, the CEO is like very, very pushing AI agents. And so redundancies, it's just a matter of time. And he's thinking about what's going to happen. Is he going to have to give up some of his people? And so what's important is to notice what's going in your body. It's a signal, because strategy isn't about spreadsheets. It starts earlier on. It signals knowing that you need to do something different. You need to create some change. And so what are the consequences of being busy in meetings? What are the consequences of being in execution, being a subject matter expert, being the person that's always there, of waiting instead of designing a plan? So I'd like you to meet Rolf. Rolf is an IT manager. He's a father of 2. He lives, he's actually German, but he lives in the UK. He loves to run. He has a team of 6. And when he came to me, he was in back-to-back meetings. He was very pressurized. He was anxious. He told me he wanted more work-life balance, but he also wanted a promotion, and he felt stuck. His meetings with his manager weren't so good. When they happened, they were generally about updates. So we're going to unpack a little bit how Rolf moved into more strategic leader and how he also got the promotion that he wanted. And so it was a process, because if I asked Rolf, how are you at delegation, where 1 is low and 10 is high, how are you at delegating? So he said to me, Sam, I know that I should be delegating more, but nothing's changing. I'm still reviewing everything. I'm still stepping in. Like I asked one of my team members to do something, but then I'm stepping back in, micromanaging, and still carrying so much responsibility. And then I said to him, well, Rolf, where are you from 1 to 10 at being strategic? And he said, I know I want to be strategic, but I'm still solving daily operational issues first. I'm working bottom up. I'm in the details. I'm still attending every meeting. I'm still reacting instead of positioning. What I mean by positioning here is that if you want to be promoted, you need to position yourself to be promoted. You need to be in front of the right people. And so, Rolf, how are you at being present? And so he said, I see why presence matters, but I'm stressed and I can't stop myself. I still am answering emails during meetings. I'm still thinking about the next decision while someone's speaking. When you're in conversation, and instead of practicing present moment awareness, and like really listening to the people, you've got all these thoughts going on in your head. Just even today, notice your thinking. Notice when you are in conversation with somebody, those thoughts. And so Rolf was noticing that he's always thinking, and he's still reacting quickly under pressure. And so this is what we call informal practice. So what is informal practice? Informal practice is a way to practice presence. It's a way to practice mindfulness. And how you do that is you do that by slowing down, by trying to be more present in meetings. Even if it's not the whole meeting, part of the meeting, try and really listen to people, watch their body language. Try and understand it's not about me and me. And maybe just notice what's going on with your team. Maybe your team member is behaving a little bit differently than usual, and so just try and see what's really happening. So let's move on. And now what I want to do is go through the achieve part of this ACT model, because I want you to take it away with you and I want you to start using it. So the achieve part is me and myself. How can I be more effective, and how can I manage my stress? So both of these need to happen. And when we're talking about AI, again, we need to make sure that how we're using AI, how we're structuring it in our day. Is the way we're using it working for me? Is it bringing up my energy rather than bringing down my energy? And then what we want to do is we want to use more what I call shared leadership. So the shared leadership is the connect piece of the ACT. The C is for connect. How I relate to my people. So just as an example, yesterday, I was working with a leader who's a subject matter expert. And so what we were talking about is how she can actually get her team to connect with others. And so what we can do with AI, we can prepare ourselves for meetings. So we can prepare ourselves for meetings that when we connect, we can be more present and we can share leadership. Our team can also go out and have conversations with other team members from cross teams. It doesn't have to be me all the time. That puts a lot of pressure on you to do everything. So if we're moving, this is exactly the level 2 application. So level 2 application is all about where your growth happens, because it's where you start committing to actually doing something and not leaving it up here. And that's where the prefrontal cortex starts actually noticing its conscious effort. That's where the intention comes in, the intention. So it's no longer habit. Maybe you're doing something new, you're trying something, you're experimenting. And this is where mistakes happen. So sometimes people don't move into the space. And so it helps to make them micro experiments, micro commitments. And when you do that, it makes all the difference. And so if you want to be more strategic, you do want to delegate more. You do want to take some time. You need to step back. You need that time for thinking as well. And so you need to coach your leaders, your team, in how they can step in instead of you. And so what I generally do is we use different tools and we use them with AI that can help us. So we integrate exercises together with AI. But what's important is the exercises start with you first. So level 2 with Ralph was micro commitments that he took. So these are just examples of what he did. He started to check which meetings he wanted to be in and which he didn't want to be in. So of course you can use Claude for this now. You can get Claude, you can create an agent, and I do recommend you to think about what agent you want to develop first and to go ahead and do that. If you need help, get help from IT, but develop, don't be nervous, step into it. Create an agent that can maybe check your emails, which emails you need to attend to first in the morning. So Ralph started to check which meetings he wanted to be in. He asked team members to replace him. He looked at what meetings execs would be in because he wanted to start positioning himself. And he also asked to be included in higher level meetings. And so then what he did is he looked at the agenda and he thought about how he could contribute. And then of course he used AI to prepare for these meetings. Who was going to be there, what they wanted from him, how he could use AI to prepare. So it's not just using AI to, what am I going to say, but to start preparing for the meeting, especially stuff that is maybe new to you. And so you want to bring this intentionality into level 2. So level 2 is when you experiment, so when you start adapting. So step 1 is first of all, you being intentional and bringing your brand, what you want into it. And then step 2 is going to be using AI. And then step 3 again is coming back in again as a human. And so I have these tools that, again, I use them. What Peter used is he used a tool called strategic momentum, and he used it as a meeting reflection tool after meetings. So I want to explain the step 1, step 2, and step 3 because it's very important. Step 1 is when you are in a meeting and you come out of the meeting. Now, before you go into your next meeting, buffer time is very, very important because that's when you start integrating your thinking. If you're in back-to-back meetings, you're not going to have time for strategic thinking. So what I want to ask you to do is make sure you have space between meetings. And so just to give you an example of another leader in the UK in the cyberspace, what he did is he came in and he contracted with the people and he said, listen, we need to push back and we need to finish 10 minutes earlier. And so he started finishing the meeting 10 minutes earlier. And then what he did is he took his phone and he started dictating into his phone his thinking after the meeting. So you finish the meeting and what you want to do is you want to capture your thinking. That's step 1. So you go into your phone, you use any dictation tool. I use WhatsApp. You can dictate straight into any of your AIs, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, any AI you want, doesn't matter. They all have dictation. And so before you go into the next meeting, you want to capture your thinking, or at least within, I would say, even that day. So you capture your thinking and then you let go. That's step 1. Step 2 is you come back into AI at a later time during the day, and you see AI knows you. Your AI knows you. They know your role. It knows what you're doing, and so the next prompt that you will want to use is you want to ask AI to act as an expert. And this tip I got from Colin Scotland. He's fantastic. And he said, first use the act as prompt. So let's say you have some questions. You are in sales. Maybe you are a BDR or an SDR, or you're in go-to-market, or you're a product manager. Who is the expert that you want AI to act as? And so you ask AI to act as an expert and then to review your notes and to actually comment as the expert. And what you could do is you could even bring in multiple experts and get different perspectives. If you want to up your leadership, ask AI to act as a leadership expert, as a leadership development expert. And so what I do with the clients that coach with me is they get these strategic tools, they get these templates, and they start using them after meetings. And we have this built into the coaching that I do, so that in between meetings, you're doing these micro experiments, you are figuring out, learning more about yourself so that you can move into level 2. Level 2 is when change happens, when you start adapting. And so what happens is there's a change that happens in your brain because you start walking new neural pathways. So to go back, so I want to actually explain this exact thing that I did with this leader that moved into a head of strategy, global head of strategy role. So he was walking anyway during the day, and he had to prepare once a month. He had to prepare for his exec team. He had to prepare how he thinks they should move forward. And so what was happening, he was spending something like 6 to 8 hours on preparing the presentation. And his exec team didn't want the detail. So basically, I gave him this exercise to walk and to start dumping all his thinking, dump all his thinking into AI. That's why it's human first and it's presence. so he was walking, he was multitasking, but not all of his walk was this. He spent about 10-15 minutes of his hour walk just dumping his thinking around what he wanted to present to the global exec team. And so he did that. And then when he got back after his walk, he said it saved him in his preparing of the presentation. It saved him from 6 to 8 hours. It brought it down to 2 to 3 hours. Now you have to understand this ability to first be human first and start with his thinking and just dump it all messy, because AI knows to create patterns. AI knows how to deepen, how to create logic from all the mess that you dump into it. And so just imagine the stress level that reduced from him being able to do this, of him being able to get all this extra time of moving from 6 to 8 hours to 2 to 3 hours. Now, I know a lot of you are preparing your stuff, preparing your presentations, doing a lot of research already. What I want you to add the layer is act as, take a human expert that you know. Maybe it's a book you've read, maybe it's a podcast that you've listened to, and use it. Act as, if you want to become better in productivity, act as James Clear and use that. And so he did that, and it greatly, greatly changed the whole way he worked. So this is exactly what I said. He said it was a game changer. So I want to go back to a lot of you that are listening want to be promoted. And in order to be promoted, you have to understand a little bit about power dynamics. And so power dynamics means that you want to be in rooms with people that are power, that people will say, I want Samantha, I want Evan, I want Jason, I want Sarah to, be in my team. I want her to be promoted. So you need to understand influence, and you need to influence upwards. And even at a VP level, it doesn't matter, at every level. You don't want to wait to be asked. You want to think how you can contribute rather than just presenting information. And so again, you gather your thinking. That's step one. You use AI, step two, to prepare for the meetings that you're going to be asked to be going into in order to shape the organization to be a real player in your organization. So level 2 thinking is, where you're applying. And so Rolf used what I call the daily leadership reset. The daily leadership reset, it's available on my website. If you're going to askyourcoach.com, you can download the daily leadership reset. And he said, I'm being more strategic. I'm delegating more. I'm trying not to jump into solutions so quickly. I know I need to zoom out more. And so very proud of Rolf. He's working, he started working on his stakeholder influence, all these things. And how he did that was in between meetings with me, he started using the daily leadership reset. The daily leadership reset is at the end of the day where you start gathering your thoughts around the whole day. And then you can use AI to assist you there to get some pattern recognition and see how you're doing with that. So I see that time is going away with me, and I would like to pause for a moment and answer the question that I have at the moment in the comments. Thank you, Marie. So Marie's asking, how do you decide what not to focus on when there's multiple priorities and you feel everything's critical at the same time? So that's all of us, right? We are very busy. We feel sometimes that we're spinning because there's so much going on. What do you do? So maybe I'll actually even take you back to this daily leadership reset. It's really important. Two things that I've mentioned today. One is using the daily leadership reset. That's at the end of the day. That's available on my website, askyourcoach.com, with hyphens in between. You can DM me and I'll give you the link. And that helps you dump all your thinking at the end of the day and helps you understand how was your focus during the day? Where did you prioritize? Where were you maybe in the meetings that you didn't need to be in? So when you think through that at the end of the day, you start getting the perspective of the whole day and you start understanding. And then when you do this day after day, you're going to start seeing where your energy is going. Is your energy going in, in the way that you want it to be going? Is it going in the right direction? Where's your energy? Where are your priorities? Are they centered right? And so you then understand where you want to pull back, I've also mentioned another thing today is how it's important to take this buffer space in between meetings. Wow, so I see we're almost at the end of our time, and I have so much still that I want to share with you. And so let me share this slide. This slide is around level 3. And so we spoke today about the levels of transformation. And I want you to go from level 0, which is actually completely passive and just absorbing ideas, to level 1, where level 1 is where you start actually understanding. That's the awareness piece. Level 2 was when you started experimenting. And level 3 is magic, where the identity shift begins. So what I do with the leaders that I work with is I actually help them shift from standing here to standing there. And what that means is that neurologically, you start having a mindset shift. You start seeing differently. You start applying consistently these changes. So how it would look for you, it would look for you that you are taking buffer space, because that's what strategy is going to come in the time where you can integrate your thinking. And you can use AI to integrate your thinking. So you need to stop in between meetings, take a breath, share, share all whatever happened in that meeting, share your thinking and your brilliance into your phone, dictated in. That was step 1. Step 2 is where AI helps you to bring all the magic together. And then step 3 is actually where you start applying this consistently. You apply this consistently, and so you see these changes happening in your life. And so you're applying this mindful act leadership model. You move into the thrive piece. The thrive piece is where it's not about me only, the achieve piece. It's not only about your connects of your one-on-ones or your team. You're able to zoom out of your team, and you're able about not only thinking about me, but thinking about the business. And that's one tip that I give to a lot of the leaders I coach. They take things personally, and I say to them, strategically, start thinking of yourself, not about yourself. Think about the business. And the biggest tip that I'll actually even give you today is, how can the business thrive because of you showing up and being present? How can you contribute more to the impact of your company, the impact of the different stakeholders, internally, externally? When you start contributing and you stop worrying about yourself and think about the impact that you want to make, that's where the big change happens. And so I want to ask you this question before I leave. How would you feel in 4 months' time if you are actually contributing in exec meetings and getting noticed? Okay, it takes time. Give yourself the space to, practice these things. It happens. How would you feel if in 6 months you didn't actually ask for that promotion, but you were offered the promotion? So level 1 is where the achieve part of the ACT model, where awareness begins. Level 2 is the achieve and the connect, where you start practicing with intention. Remember the habit, intention, wisdom. Level 3, wisdom starts happening, where you connect and thrive, and the identity shift happens. And level 4 is actually when it all becomes very, very natural to you. That's where the identity shift actually happens. And so imagine that you are this person. If you can see the picture, that you were very, very busy in the now, and you were able to move from being in the now, from being a lot working by yourself, to actually taking that time, taking like the pathway to be present, to take that time in between meetings, to walk, maybe even go for a walk outside, stretch your legs, breathe, take notes. Maybe you don't dictate, take some notes about your meeting, and then use AI to integrate your thinking, share your leadership. That's the picture. Work together with your team, with AI. And so I really would like to wish you a beautiful day. I'm here for questions. If you want to reach out to me on any of the social media channels, I would love to meet with you. I'd love to hear how you are using AI. AI really is just going to become bigger and bigger. But remember, your greatness needs to start first. And it starts with you believing in yourself, not only being in habit, but pausing more, bringing intentionality into your day. It can start with your day, taking a cup of coffee, breathing, bringing intention. How do I want to show up in my meetings? What outcomes do I want in my meetings? And then gathering that information and making all the magic happen. Thank you so much for joining me today. Even if you're listening to this recording, thank you for listening. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your likes. If this was helpful, share this with people who it could be useful for. And I look forward to meeting you again soon. Bye for now, Samantha Ahmed.